I don't know. Info housing, Jackson, campaign, path is off. It's some guy from Weber State. Why don't we just call it?
Welcome, everybody, to the 6 p.m. City Council meeting of January 7th, 2025. All council members are present, and at this time, we'll begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked Vice Chair White to lead us in that.
Please rise. If you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, I'll ask, are there any acknowledgments from the council at this time?
I was able to watch the year-end video that you put together, excuse me, Brandon, and I was struck by how much we did last year. And so I would encourage anyone that thinks that we just go down one path all the time should take a look at that. There was a lot of stuff on that video. And watch it to the end.
That's good. All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
Chair, I was just going to acknowledge I was able to participate. It seems like so long ago now because we've been we haven't met in a while, but the city, along with other partners, helped to host the Christmas dinner at the Union Station, which is usually held at Marshall White, which is so exciting. Next year we can have it there. But I just wanted to say how much I appreciated the staff and everybody for supporting that event. It's just a really wonderful occasion.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, up next we have approval of minutes from the joint work session of November 19th, 2024. Councilmember Graff.
I have reviewed them, and to the best of my knowledge, they are accurate.
Thank you. And the regular meeting of November 19th, 2024, Councilmember Heyer.
Yes, Chair Ritchie, I've reviewed those and found them to be accurate and would make a motion that we approve the minutes listed in the agenda.
And I'll second.
All right. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Graff. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That passes unanimous. Perfect. Okay. First on the agenda, or up next, we have the 2023-2024 audit report, and we'd like to welcome Jeff Miles from HBME to come up and present on this. Welcome.
Good evening, Council and Mayor and staff. It's a pleasure to be with you again this year. I thought maybe Coralie was going to be here to talk about maybe a little bit of financial information as well.
And she is here, so yeah,
she slipped in there behind me. So sorry about that. So great. I'll keep what I'm going to share tonight pretty brief, just because I know we'll be meeting in a work session next month where we can go into information in a little more detail with respect to our audit reports. I will say we did issue a unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements of the city for fiscal year end, June 30th, 2024. And in relation to that, we also issue three other separate reports. The federal single audit, and this year the grant that was subject to test work was the COVID-19 relief money that the city received. It's actually kind of the first bit that the city has spent. I believe that, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think the total amount received was around $30 million. And just a reminder to the council that all that money has to be encumbered by the end of calendar year 2025 and spent in full by the end of calendar year 2026. I know the city has begun budgeting what those funds are going to be used for. But for the portion that was spent during fiscal year 2024 was about $3 million. And we tested that to make sure the money was spent in conformity with the guidelines set forth by the Treasury Department and found that they were spent in accordance with allowed legislation related to those funds. So had also a clean opinion on the federal single audit of the city. As part of our audit, we also reviewed the internal controls of the city. Areas kind of most sensitive that we review are related to cash receipting, cash disbursements, property and equipment, capitalizations, payroll processes, and kind of the financial reporting and close process that the city goes through. And during that review of controls and during the course of our audit, we didn't identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. So, feel like the controls are functioning to allow for capturing all the data the city needs to present financial statements to the city council, which is a big undertaking for a city of this size. There's a lot of different departments, and to be able to properly capture that data and to be able to do financial reporting on it is key to have good information for the city council to make good decisions based on the financial condition of the city. So we feel like that there's good segregation of duties and controls around the finances of the city. And then the final report that we issue is related to state compliance, and the areas that we tested this year for state compliance were budgetary compliance, justice court, the fraud risk assessment, governmental fees, fund balance, restricted taxes, and cash management. And during our audit, we did identify two findings. Number one is the city's unassigned fund balance of the general fund cannot exceed 35% of the budgeted revenues. And at the end of fiscal year 2024, that amount was 39.42%. And I think Coralie can expand upon that a little bit more. We talked about it with the audit committee, and part of it is the city's investments, just the way we have to account for that under accounting standards, resulted in kind of a large markup on the investments that didn't occur until after the budget year had closed. Kind of you get the reports from Morton that tell us what that valuation is. And so then that journal entry had to be booked as of June 30th. And that caused the revenue of the city to be higher than what was anticipated. And so then the other finding we had was in the Weber Morgan Narcotics Strike Force Fund was over budget by $53,000. And part of that was related to a grant that was received during the fiscal year, and those funds were spent, but when the original budget was approved, that grant wasn't anticipated, and then the budget wasn't revised subsequently to match the revenue that had come in. But overall, we feel like those are, I don't want to say like insignificant items, but we'd much rather be over a 35% threshold than on the other end of the scale where you'd be under the 5% minimum that the state has. But overall, we feel that the administration of the city and the finance team does a great job in preparing for the audit. To go back to our internal control discussion, one way that as an auditor we feel if there's good controls or not is if we identify misstatements during our audit or proposed journal entries. And there were no journal entries that came from our audit team during the audit, which is, I think, a testament again to the finance team of having everything ready to go for our audit and didn't result in any audit adjustments that came from us. Any questions from council with respect to the audit?
So just in all, either, how do I want to say this? Even if we were below or above, we always have some sort of an action plan. So I'm assuming that you're working with our finance folks for an action plan on how to
yes.
fix the strike
and so,
force. And
kind of within our report, we do have like management's response, and I can read that to you briefly. It says management concurs and will be reducing fund balance with the budget transfer in fiscal year 2025. Management will be reviewing revenue and expenses monthly to ensure the fund balance does not exceed the allowable amount for the state of Utah. The monthly review will also include a review of unrealized gains, losses on investments, which is what resulted. So we do feel like there's an adequate action plan going forward to prevent that from happening in the future. And similar with the budget finding of making sure that every fund is tracked and monitored and be able to be amended in a timely fashion before year end.
Any other questions? If not, I'll take a motion to accept or not accept for review the audit report.
Chair, I'll make that motion to accept for review.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Myers to accept for review the fiscal year 2023-2024 audit report. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
And Chair Ritchie, that work session is for that discussion is scheduled for February 18th.
Okay. Perfect. Before we move on to the next item, I failed to mention at the outset of the meeting, item 5D, the proposed PATH program, has at administration's request, we've pulled that from the agenda. That should come back to us at a future meeting. So we won't be addressing that item. Okay. Up next, we'll invite Justin Sorensen, our finance director, to address us on the 2023-2024 annual comprehensive financial report.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I thought in years past we've talked a little bit about it, but I thought I'd throw a couple slides on just to help citizens and kind of know where to navigate on our city website to find our financial statements. I know it can be, people want to find and look at those, and so I put a couple screenshots together to share with you. Our annual our ACFR, as we call it, our annual comprehensive financial report, is available online now, as well as the single audit report that was discussed by Jeff. And so to find that, it's kind of hard to see, but if you go to the Ogden City webpage, there's a section called Popular Links, and there's a tab called Budget and Financials. And if you click on that, it opens up, and in that you'll see on that page it's several years worth of adopted budgets, or financial reports, our single audit reports. It also includes our RDA budgets, our municipal building authority budgets, and so all those items are located on that page. So we thought it would be helpful for people if they're wanting to find out where these reports can be found. They are on our website on that page. And more specifically, you can see the financial reports. There's links, and it opens up a document for our financial statements and our single audit report. These are images of what the front page of those reports look like. But first of all, I just want to thank Administration Council and especially Management Services for the hours of work that goes into the preparation. As Jeff mentioned, there's a lot of time that gets spent in getting ready for the audit. I mean, our fiscal year ended 6 months ago, and we're now reporting on it. And so it takes time to go through that process and to go through the audit and to get our financials prepared. I really want to thank Coralie Jensen from my office. She puts in a lot of time in getting this ready. She puts in a lot of effort. And when Jeff talks about that we didn't have any, they didn't have to propose any journals, I contribute a lot of that to Coralie, because she puts a lot of time in making sure that we haven't missed anything. And so I just want to express my thanks, because she does a very thorough job in preparing our financial statements. So a couple of things about it. So Ogden City, we have received the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for fiscal year 23, and we have also have applied again for fiscal year 24. With applying for this, there's a lot of requirements above and beyond just producing financial statements, and so there's a lot of work that goes into preparing that. And so when you go and look at our financial statements, it's broken up into three main categories. You've got an introductory section, which includes a transmittal letter to the mayor and city council. It also includes our MD&A, which is the management discussion and analysis. And this gives kind of a high level. If anybody's wanting to find out information about the city, that is a great place to go and find out financial information about the city without looking at financial statements. So there's a lot of information there. And then there is the financial section, which does include all of our financial statements and any other required supplementary information that is required. And then the last one is our statistical section, which provides some different trends for and revenue and debt capacity, demographic information. So a lot of information in the 197 page book, but so a couple of highlights from this year's financial statements. Our governmental funds and enterprise funds in total had an overall increase in fund balance by just over 4%. So as a city, we are in a very healthy position with all of our funds. We were also able to reduce our long-term debt by $12 million, but with that, we did take on an additional $143 million in debt, mainly for that was the Wonder Block development and parking garages. Those were added to on our financials this last year. And then another one, I think it's a good note to see that the city is continuing to invest in the city, is we invested over $61 million worth of capital improvements, infrastructure, equipment. So that's water, sewer, storm replacement. That's roads and sidewalks. That's our fleet and our vehicles and equipment. So a lot of money went into those items, and so. And then, again, as was stated, we'll have a work session on February 18th to discuss our financial report in more depth. I just wanted to, in response to the two findings that we had, we are in the process right now of putting a budget opening together that will come to you to correct those two findings, the fund balance issue, as well as recognize the grant in the strike force that was missed last year. And so, but the fund balance one, that is one that we are definitely we are keeping an eye on. And with those investments, it's hard because it was due to some unrealized gains, which isn't necessarily cash that we've received, but we still have to report it as income. And because of that, that's what, and with turnover, I've been in this position now for a year, and that was one of the things that wasn't on my radar and I missed. So we will make sure moving forward that we don't miss that as we watch those investments and what they do each month. So, but with that, any questions for me on the report?
Perfect. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
We have a motion to accept for review.
Chair, I'll move that we accept the fiscal year 2023-24 annual comprehensive financial report.
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Councilmember Myers and a second by Councilmember Heyer to accept for review the 2023-2024 annual comprehensive financial report. This is also a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That was unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we'll bring Jeremy Smith up to talk about the proposed amended infill housing guidelines. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here tonight, talk to you about the infill guideline ordinance updates we're proposing. So just a little background, the infill housing program guidelines were additionally adopted in 2011. These are the guidelines that give the city guidance on how city infill development occurs. The program guidelines were expanded in 2015, requiring projects that exceeded 10 homes on contiguous lots or individual property acquisitions over $250,000 would require the approval of final development concepts and financing by City Council. So just a little history on similar projects that have been used where this guidance has been implemented. When it pertained to having 10 or more lots, Lincoln Cottages, the OGDEN bungalows, the Stone Hill development, and the one we'll be talking about later today, 605 North Jackson, also known as Lewis Ridge at this time. And we also wanted to point out one that under these guidelines would not come to you for approval. And these are generally our smaller infill developments. We recently completed 2 homes on Monroe, 2800 block of Monroe, where there was a property purchase subdivided into 2 lots, and we were able to build 2 homes on it. This was for $230,000, which was below the threshold. That was back in 2022. One of the reasons we're coming and looking for updates is because since 2015, there's been significant change in the median sales price. In 2015, it was at $144,963. That number, as no secret, has jumped quite a bit. It's now at $407,162,000 for to purchase property. In order for the city to build smaller homes, it's often has to be done quickly. And so the ability for us to go and purchase property is often needs to be a lot quicker than coming and getting permission over sometimes several month period of time. So we're requesting that updating this to reflect the current market to $400,000 for the minimum required before it would have to come for city council approval. The other portion that needs to be updated is in regards to some HUD language that we were made aware of that pertains to fair housing when federal funds are used on these infill housing projects. New language clarifies what developers and contractors must do to comply with accessibility and fair housing options throughout the development process. And we have those extensive here. This is a clip of one of the highlights, and it really reflects the majority of the changes in there. When you look at 3A, it's basically saying when you have a minimum of 5% of the total dwelling units, or at least one unit in a multifamily housing project, whatever is greater shall be made accessible for persons with mobility impairments. So it's really just going towards making sure when federal funds are used that we're in compliance with the requirements for Section 504, which requires making some of the units accessible. And that is all I have on that presentation. Happy to address any comments you have this time.
Chairman, I was curious. I appreciate the increasing the amount to $400,000, and the average was like 407. So I wonder why maybe we don't up that a little bit further. I mean, I know you like to be conservative, but
I think 400,000 was landed on because we also appreciate round numbers.
yes, we do too.
like lots of people, and I think the homes that we're purchasing generally are not above $400,000. When we look at these infill developments, they're usually under that. And so if we had something above that, it's usually involved in a bigger project, which we feel the council would probably want input on. So we picked that number. Who knows what's going to happen next year? I may be here 12 months from now, and we may be needing to increase that more, but hopefully not.
Thanks.
Jeremy, my question, I think I asked this in the work session, just relates to the, those homes that we're purchasing. Are we feeling a need that the private sector could be feeling? Are we in competition in that? Or what are we looking at when we're on these homes that we're using this for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we're doing these homes, we're not competing with the private sector. In fact, the homes that we do are generally ones that the private sectors would not, because it doesn't work for them. So, for example, that home that the two homes that we built on that lot there, that could have been done in a way. Possibly the private sector could go in and possibly build homes there. However, you're not going to get the level of home that's needed in the neighborhood when we look at it from a revitalization or a help to the neighborhood. Because we're able to go in and build those and basically sell them or build them for the cost sell them for the cost that we are charged to build it, we can gear those towards moderate median income home buyers and produce a home that's above what the market would produce. So in that way, no, we're not competing with the private market.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Okay, if not, any other discussion on the council, then we'll a motion on this item.
Chair, regarding the proposed amendment to infill housing guidelines and resolution number 2025-1, I make a motion for approval.
Second.
All right, a motion by Councilmember Graff and a second by Councilmember Blair to adopt proposed resolution 2025-1. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Councilmember Graff.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Ritchie.
Aye, and that passes. Okay, welcome back, Jeremy, on the 605 North Jackson concept plan.
Okay. Thank you. So we go. Okay, so just a little background on this project. This is a property that was purchased from the Ogden School District back in 2023. It's about 7 acres. An additional 0.3 acres was purchased recently, this past October. And that's the blue section just above the yellow, which was purchased originally. There's a canal that runs to the west of this property that is also part of the property, and that's in the red there on that exhibit. We recently rezoned this property from R16 to R15, which increased the density and helped us better utilize the available land and allow for more building lots. Why we're here tonight is because this, as I spoke about previously, requires approval from the City Council because it's over 10 continuous lots. And you will have the ability to approve the final concept of this project. And so that's what we're presenting to you. So the history of it, we hired Wasatch Civil Engineers to help us come up with concepts for this project. They came up with several different versions after meeting with different staff members and trying to determine what the best option was. The following concept was agreed to be the superior concept. So this is what it looks like. It's 29 single-family home building lots. This project will also incorporate the repavement and installation of curb and gutter along Jackson Avenue that's currently not there. It would be public streets put in here. And then the canal I mentioned on the west of the property would be piped, and there would be an existing easement that would remain on the project. And then there would be pedestrian access connecting to the existing neighborhood to the west. The proposed financing of the project, the acquisition was done with the Quality Neighborhood Initiative funds for just over $1 million. The future CIP would then be proposed to fund the new public streets, utilities, and completion of Jackson Avenue. The engineer's estimate we have on this is $1,335,000. And then the construction of the homes will be done with our existing Synchrony line of credit. And then the proceeds of sale upon each of the homes are then used to pay back the construction financing and any carrying costs that occur from the sales. Just to give a conceptual of what some of the homes you may see on this property, here's some artist renderings that typical of what you may see there. What we're proposing are single-family detached homes ranging from 1,400 to 1,800 square feet. We propose doing ADU-ready basements, which would be unfinished, ready for the future owner to develop into ADUs if they so choose. It would include water-wise landscaping, and then each of these homes will be sold to owner-occupants through our Home Sweet Ogden program.
Jeremy, can I?
Sure.
With respect to this, you and I had this discussion already, but with the garage-centric view on the front, can we avoid that and try and make it a little bit more accommodating to, pedestrian friendly, walkable, neighborhood connective type designs rather than have this big garage door?
Yeah, if you remember from the work session, the picture to the right wasn't there. So I put that in there for you, Councilman.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So we don't know what the homes will be exactly, and that's not, we'll definitely take that into consideration. Anytime that we can have big open porches and things that invite neighborhoods, we've been very successful with that type of product in other developments, and we'd love to continue that. The market does determine a lot of what we can do as well as the lot widths and sizes. So absolutely, that would be our preference.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on that, or I can go to the next slide?
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Actually, that was the final slide. So happy to take any comments or questions you have on that, on this project.
One other, one of your slides showed a pedestrian walkway through that detention pond. And it looks like you have put it on the edge of the lot, so it's not just running down the middle.
Right.
Is it your plan to make that a little bit more of a, spiffy it up a little bit?
Yeah.
To make it more than just a path.
Yes, absolutely, and that is a concern, and we've talked about that because it does run along that detention basin. We want to make sure it's not just an eyesore, and so making that pedestrian path not just something people are scared of to run down, but it's actually an asset to the community is a priority, and so. Right now, it is the concept plan. A lot of it's going to just determine the engineering of how that detention basin looks and what that eventually we can do with it, but making it as, much as a benefit rather than a liability as much as possible.
And that goes to the detention basin needs to be more than just a hole in the.
Yeah, full of weeds and
full
that.
of weeds
Yep.
and stuff. It's got to have some grass and be maintained or something, it's.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just a lot of them in that general region of the town that are just uncared for.
Right. And where this is a city project, we want to make sure when Ogden City stamp is on it that it stands out as an example of how things should be. So when other developments that may be similar come along, that we can point to that and say, this is the way a detention basin is done. This is the way a pedestrian access is done. So that is a priority.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, if not, we'll entertain a motion on this resolution.
Chair, I would like to make this resolution since it's in my neighborhood. Concerning the proposed resolution 2025-2, I would make a motion that we adopt that resolution.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and second by Councilmember Chaburka to adopt proposed resolution 2025-2, and this is also a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Councilmember Graff,
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Councilmember Blair,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Ritchie.
Aye, that passes. Thank you.
Chair, if I may?
Yes.
I like the project a lot, and I brought this question up in our work session around this. And I'd just like to state it again. I would like to have us take a look at offsetting some of the cost of infrastructure, $1.3 million coming from CIP in this proposal. Rather than that, incorporate that cost of improvement, water, sewer, gas, street, curb, gutter, at some level into the cost of the homes. I think that the homes should carry the cost rather than taxpaying public as a whole, and I'd like to see us kind of open that door and start to study that a little bit.
You want to respond at all to that, Jeremy?
So it's interesting because one of the things that it's been really challenging for housing in general now, especially about single family homes, is the price, right? The price is so high right now. Even these homes will be higher than anybody ever dreamed they would be, just because of how much it costs to build a house. The benefit of those high prices, though, is that we can start to incorporate some of those costs, and that if there's enough efficiencies in the actual construction of the home, we should be able to recoup those costs upon sale of the home. So we're not just subsidizing an entire project, but you can actually get money back and recoup some of those costs. That always hasn't been the case, right? Some of these projects that we've done, you've never been able to get a price high enough to be able to do that. But that is one of the silver linings of a crazy housing market right now.
Yeah, and I appreciate that very much, Jeremy. The 1.3 over 29 lots is $46,000 per.
Yeah.
And I understand there's some sensitivity there, but at the same time, we've got a tight budget and a lot of things on our wish list.
Yeah, and it's understood. I'll give you a little perspective. If you were to go buy, so if you wrap the acquisition costs in with the improvement costs, right, you're looking at around $83,000 to $85,000 per lot to do that. If you're to buy a similar lot pretty much anywhere else in Weber County right now, you're pressing over close to $200,000 a lot, right? It's just it's a crazy time to be trying to build new, especially single family homes. It's just why you're not seeing many of this type of home. The ones you're seeing are usually gigantic and really expensive, or they're trying to take care of it with multifamily. So,
Yep. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Our final item from reports from administration is proposed campaign finance ordinance amendments. And we have Tracy Hansen here to address us on this one. Welcome, Tracy.
Good evening. Let's see, I'm here with you tonight to discuss the proposed ordinance to amend the campaign finance section of the city code. And since the Recorder's Office has a mission to safeguard the history of the city by managing and preserving official records, I wanted to share, of course, a couple records with you. The first one I know you can't read, but this is it's the primary election canvass from 1931, where the gentleman on the screen, Moroni Skeen, ran for office. He ran for council, or it's the commissioners. They were commissioners at the time, a 4-year term. He was one of 16 candidates, and he was eliminated, unfortunately, in the primary. But we have his expense report, which I thought was fun. It's from 1931, and it shows that he spent $4.50 on candidate cards. So I was interested in what candidate cards were, and that's a sample. This is not from Utah. I could not find any historical pictures of Utah candidate cards, but it appears that they would have cards printed out to hand out to people, maybe similar to flyers, that type of thing. So I thought it would be fun since we're discussing financial reports. 1931 is the earliest set of reports we've found so far while we're reviewing documents. But since then, a little bit has changed. In 2009, the City Council adopted a comprehensive campaign finance ordinance, and since their time, there have been numerous changes to state code related to campaign finance, and it's resulted in what I feel is a really confusing system of rules with conflicting dates. And so our purpose in this proposal this evening is to simplify the system, repealing Ogden's separate code, and creating a new ordinance that aligns with state code with a few exceptions. The proposed changes, we discussed this in a council work session, and nothing has changed since that visit. So the contributions would, Ogden right now prohibits anonymous contributions. The state allows anonymous contribution $50 per calendar year, and so we're recommending that that be followed. Contribution limits per person per election cycle. The mayor is $5,000, which it currently is. Council member is $1,500. We are recommending that not change, that it stays the same. Penalties for violating provisions of the chapter, that's included. However, we've included wording to allow a little bit of room for correction. If an error is made or if something happens and we call a candidate and say, you need to get this fixed, they're technically still in violation. So we wanted to give the opportunity for a candidate to correct any issues that may have
I
occurred.
appreciate that because I've had to correct some numbers before, so.
Yeah. There's an advertisement disclosure currently in state code, but it's felt that it applies only to state candidates. So we would like to make sure that that's also in our code, which would require if candidates do billboards, any news ads or radio ads, you have to disclose that you approve of that it's your campaign and that you know about it. And then finally, no contributions or expenditures can be made without establishing a personal campaign committee in Ogden City. And this would eliminate the need for a candidate to do that. Which then we get to reporting dates. And I know, again, this is small. Usually I'm over there, not here. So I have a hard time knowing the size, and I apologize. The green dates are the state dates. The blue dates are the city dates. And it's just, I feel it's very confusing. Our dates are a couple days earlier than some of the states' dates. And so our recommendation is to eliminate Ogden specific dates and go with the state code, which would then eliminate the need for a candidate who receives a contribution over $750 to file a statement with the recorder within 24 hours if it's during the 7 days before the election. It still would need to be reported. It just wouldn't be a separate report that would occur the 7 days before the election. We've only had that happen since I've been here in the last election. Nobody's ever had to do that before. So it's not used often, but it would have to be included on the reports. So I can try and answer any questions if you have any. If not, I would request approval of the proposed ordinance.
Any questions or discussion on the council?
What do you do if, just curious, what do you do if there is a contribution of $750 or more? I mean, now.
A candidate would fill out a specific report that states what that donation is, and we would put it on the website.
Just post it to the website.
Which the candidate would still need to include it in their next report. It just kind of calls attention to it during those 7 days. I think it came from a time when there wasn't the internet. You couldn't access reports or information. We didn't get our ballots 21 days in advance. And so people could accept contributions right before the election without people knowing. I think that's where it came into play. Like I said, we haven't had it used except for this last election.
Or it wasn't reported.
Yeah, there would be no way we'd know.
All right. If there's not any other discussion, do we want to have a motion on this item?
Chair, I'll make that motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2025-1.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Blair to adopt proposed ordinance 2025-1. And this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Graff.
Yes.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Ritchie.
Aye. All right, and that passes. Okay.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yes.
I just want to say how much I appreciate everybody agreeing not to increase the campaign contribution limits. I felt like they're appropriate for what our city needs. So thanks for everybody supporting that.
And I wanted to acknowledge Tracy's enthusiasm for her job and digging through the archives and bringing us some really interesting old stuff. And it brings a smile to my face when she shares some of that old stuff. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. All right. Okay, thank you very much. We are at the public comment portion of our meeting. I just wanted to just briefly mention on the, there's been a lot of discussion about the Weber housing facility and at the Aspen facility, the discussions there. We had a very good work session where that was discussed. If you haven't had a chance to review that, I recommend you check that out. But just maybe in summary, and my fellow council members, and maybe the mayor can help me if I misstate something here. Overwhelmingly, we feel good about the project in itself and the success rate of that. Primarily, the concern on the council has been the location. And so we asked, along with the administration, an opportunity to maybe reconsider that location and work together with Weber County and the Weber Housing Authority to do that. We still have it currently on our agenda for next week. That may or may not change based on some of the discussions that come about this next coming week. Did I miss anything, or is that relatively close to kind of what we talked about? But yeah, our hope is that we can maybe find a solution that might alleviate some of the concerns that we've heard. We do feel like the city does quite a bit. And in fact, tomorrow there's a program with the Ogden Housing Authority to discuss the work that we're doing in that space as well. So anyway, just if you're here to address us on that, we certainly welcome your public comment. We just wanted to let you know where we are and what's been discussed so far in that. So at this time, if you'd like to address the council, you're welcome to step up to the microphone here or raise your hand online. And we ask that you state your name for the record and then limit your comments to 3 minutes. We do have a hand online, so let's go ahead and go to that first. Welcome.
Hi, Heath. Hey, Heath Sato, Ogden resident. I wanted to be there in person tonight, but unfortunately I have a mild cold and don't want to get any of you guys sick. Talking about the work session, I recently re-listened to the work session from July 12th, 2022, when our OPD homeless service advocate, Anna Davison, shared stories about people experiencing homelessness in Ogden with you guys. One of the heartbreaking examples was a woman who died by suicide in the park here while waiting for housing. And I just want to remind you, we're making people wait right now. Some council members in that meeting said, where are these people coming from? They had heard rumors circulating that they were being shipped in from other cities. Anna said the majority is definitely our own community members. Former police chief Eric Young was there and agreed. He said it would be misguided to say a large percentage are coming here just because they've heard of Ogden. So I just wanted to kind of put that to rest. Former council member and now Mayor Ben Nadolski said at the time, we need to personalize, not politicize. I couldn't agree more. Councilmember Heyer also noted the cost of repairing parks damaged by encampments, adding it would be nice to shift the money into direct care rather than just mitigate the mess. And this project does exactly that at no cost to the city. It saves lives, saves taxpayer money, and makes our city safer. It might sound hyperbolic, but if your neighbor was dying on your street, would you help or would you wait and see if there might be someone better to help? That feels like the choice we're facing right now. The mayor spoke up at the end of the work session today and passionately described what was at stake here. He mentioned progress being held up at the airport and blocks of development. What I also see at stake here is human lives. Mayor Nadolski, please believe me when I say this with respect and as a friend, I'm disappointed. The county has been working on this for years. And yes, the prior administration was a mess. I've been communicating that to you all for years. But the city council has had the power to stand up and act for all these years, but waited until now when options are running out. And now it's urgent. These people are still, looking for a better solution than what they've got. Where they're at now is not going to work for a lot of them. I'll task you with this. Find the perfect site for them ASAP, well before June, or let this project move forward. Human lives are on the line. There are neighbors, there are a community, and I'm not exaggerating when I say those lives are in your hands. Thank you for your time.
Any other comments?
Laura Lewis. I just want to say I appreciate you guys looking at this from both sides, which is what I think you're doing, is that there's been a lot of focus on potential residents and the impact on their lives, but you also have to look at the impact on neighborhoods and as far as what the city's planning. And I think you guys are doing a good job at that, trying to make a fair decision for both.
All right, Travis Pate. It's not a commercial representation. It's just a smile to make sure everybody recognizes it is a commercial representation, however, still, but commercial logo. So the dynamic for me is I appreciate everything that was said in the work session. I'm glad that a work session was chose to have with regards to the Aspen Care Center. I think to me, the overall need and the share, as I said, I just replay my public comments from December. That's the kindness that comes out, particularly as we look at the teenage aspect of that and the Christmas tree jubilee, and that every high school in Weber County has a teen center to address homelessness. And just because some of the individuals might be age challenged now, they don't qualify for the teen centers, those types of things, doesn't mean that they're relegated to the back row. And I appreciate the compassion. It's not there, that is there with regards to the compassion. It's an overall holistic community dynamic. It's not just one that we as a city have to solve. It's not just one that the county has to solve. It's obviously a nationwide dynamic. But I think the aspect to me was it's just a sole concentration might be harmful, especially when they said, oh, individuals can come in, and yet it already said in the proposal, no guests whatsoever. But I want to go and sing or play the harmonica or something. Oh, I'm there, but now am I not just a guest? There's just too many things that are promised. A 1 to 8 ratio. And yet 25 people are there, but they don't have 3 overnight staff members. There's a lot of things that are still up in the air about it. And so I think there's still some fine tuning about the project itself. But again, the site I think is critical. It's not meritable for the dynamic that's proposed. If they want to share it and have equal uses, like I said, I'm probably one of the few people that has been there and, so to speak, lived there for multiple weeks as my mom was too ill to be at the hospital, but too well to be at the hospital, but too ill to be at home. That was our space, and it was a solemn space. And I think the same thing that the caller would try to attempt to mention is that it's the compassion. So if we're going to visit our friends and family, let's get there. Let's visit the space. Let's visit the other spaces that are possibly proposed. So thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council.
Thank you, Travis. Okay. Any other comments? Welcome. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Adrian Zubler, Ogden resident. And I don't know if y'all have addressed this in the past. I know I have over the last 10 years. With our homeless issue, it would seem like to me that maybe we would be looking at some of these tiny homes and some of the areas that a homeless person can go in. Something on wheels even is good, that we can move them where we need them and where we want them. One of the things that I think that's happening right now is Salt Lake City is looking at some of these smaller homes, and I don't know what they're calling them, but anyhow, they're smaller homes, and I think that we could do a lot better by using some of these small homes to help the homeless. We could go ahead and get that out on the street instead of making these big old houses and making decisions about just the lot sizes and all that. So anyhow, I just wanted to throw that out there, that if we haven't thought about it, that it's something that needs to be looked at. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Adrian. Okay, any other comments? What?
Hi, I'm Kevin Lundell, Ogden City resident, and it was nice to see Jeremy's presentation because I actually live in one of those projects. And it is one of those projects and that project that has helped raise the median income of East Central Ogden. And it's projects like those that have made this neighborhood an up and coming neighborhood. We moved there specifically because we love the economic diversity there. I love that I can walk the neighborhood and I can, see different people from all walks of life. And so hearing, I too tuned in to the work session today. And what I really wanted to say is that's my neighborhood. And it is Ogden City policies that have made the neighborhood on the rise. And I'm grateful for that. But it's also displaced people in that process. And we have a responsibility to those folks in that process to help house them. And I am here to say that I think our neighborhood can support it. I think our neighborhood will support it, and it wants to support it. And what I really wanted to ask today was that we get an opportunity because the process was a little backwards this time. And I know there was already a public hearing on this where public got to give their input. I wasn't even aware about that at that time, but then there was a work session that happened. We've gained more information during that. So I would really just ask that we get another opportunity next week. I've spent some time speaking with each of you on the council. I had a conversation with Mayor Nadolski about that. You remember that one? Yeah. About this specific plan. And I've spent some time actually trying to get it pushed more into the public. And so I think as they start to hear some of that, they are going to want an opportunity to speak about it and to hopefully say that, yes, our neighborhood can support it, and it should, and that we can, at this time, be compassionate. And we in Ogden can lead. We can show that we're different. I believe that we're different. And I hear that from you. And the problem is I often hear it just not in that location. The problem is with these projects, it's never in that location. It's never in that location. And I think we have an opportunity today to say yes. I think our neighborhood was going to come out and support. I do know that there will be some opposition, but I think overwhelmingly we will see that if we're allowed to have that opportunity to speak next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi, I'm Candace Burnett. I am a resident advocate at Lowen Peak Nursing and Rehab. I am at the homeless shelter weekly. I'm going to try to do this out crying because I'm very passionate about this. But this is a first step in making a difference. Like, we have so many homeless people out there on the streets that are struggling with mental illness, dementia. Like, I go there, there's dementia residents that don't know how to get a ticket to get a bed. They don't know how to get food. They're walking around with only a jacket. Like, they're freezing out there in the streets. There's tiny little kids families that just have nowhere to go. Like, we're home with a warm house and food to eat. You know, like, it's not fair for us to think, oh, they're fine. Like, we don't need to worry about that. Let's send them somewhere else. Like, I don't know how people can have the hearts to think that that's okay. So I think this program is a great start. I mean, it's not going to help everything, but let's try. Let's try to make this work. Like, I'll do everything in my power to make it work. I know there's a lot of people like this gentleman that just spoke. Like, we got to make a difference. There's got to be something that we can do. I just pray that you guys give us the opportunity to make it work. That's all I got.
Thanks, Candace. Okay. Not seeing any other public comment. Appreciate what's been shared, and just also remind you, certainly there are many opportunities to engage with the council. As was mentioned, you can reach out to us on our phones, you can email us, and I do want to say we have received quite a few emails and phone calls on this item, and others, of course. So we appreciate that. So yeah.
I'd like to make a quick comment too, and we have received quite a few comments, but there's a lot going on in Facebook and social media posts right now, and there's just because people disagree with one side or the other doesn't make it right to go after that individual. So please let people be able to speak, whether they're for or opposition of. So just be kind and listen to the people out there. So it's getting kind of a nasty on social media posts. So.
Thank you. Okay. Wonderful. Comments from Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to everybody who spoke today. I actually appreciate that Heath, if you're still listening, no offense taken, because I still believe that we need to personalize and not politicize. And that was really the crux of the remarks I made, is we're politicizing decisions that need to be done on behalf of people, and not in a politicized way, but in a collaborative way. That's all we're asking here. And the remark around, I often hear, not in this location, but then it's followed by some sort of critique that we're not willing to support it in any location. I would invite all of those people to show up tomorrow to an open house on 31st Street in Lincoln for a project that Ogden City fully endorsed and participated in. and supported and made sure that it came to fruition because it was done in a collaborative way. That's all we're asking. To say Ogden City doesn't do its part is ridiculous. To compare us to a city down south that's not willing to house, some 16, 17 beds on a few nights a week, to compare us to that, give me a break. Talk about a city, again, punching above its weight to do more than its part, more than its fair share. That's us. And to ignore the project that we are celebrating tomorrow doesn't add up. All we're asking for is to do it in the right way, to do it with us at the seat of the table in a way that doesn't violate the policies and principles we've had in place for a long, long time. And I actually see that willingness from everybody I talk to. Everybody at the county, the housing authorities. We've got to get this right. It hasn't been going right. And it puts us in these positions of being against one another. And we have got to be in a position of being for one another, for people, personalizing it. For people, that's what we're here for, to serve. So let's not politicize it, let's personalize it. I agree still, I said it then, I agree still now. And thankfully, as was also mentioned in that meeting tonight, for the first time I'd heard it, is that the people that are slated for this project are housed right now, thankfully. And I understand they're not in a permanent situation, but they're in a stable situation and a safe situation. So that's a relief. But anyway, enough about that project. We had a lot of discussion around that at the work session. I want to address something that's near and dear to my heart, and I'll just tell you that every single one of our employees is near and dear to my heart. And I know the same goes for you guys too. And as the mayor, I'm really accustomed to taking criticism. I don't care. I'm caring less and less each day sometimes. I don't think I've done a single thing in this job that hasn't been confronted with resistance. I mean, I try to walk to my truck. I can't. There's just resistance. Everything. Resistance, resistance, resistance. And if you've ever coached kids, you know that you can't ever be perfect. Right, Rashad? Amen, brother. Former teammate. Coach at Ben Lomond, applicant for the current Ben Lomond High School job in which I support. Same goes for if you're supporting kids in recreation. There's a bunch of people over here that work their butts off every single day to do exactly that. And unfortunately, one of them was maligned in a very public way. I just want to say, if anybody wants to malign our people, you can malign me. Bring it. I don't freaking care anymore. But don't malign the people that are giving everything they have for others. We've got employees, including our director of recreation, that is a good man with a good heart. Nope. He's a great man with a great heart who gives everything for the city and for the kids. Just like every one of these guys do. As a mayor, am I perfect? Not even close. Are we ever perfect? No way. But is our heart in the perfect place for everything that we do? You're damn right it is. Every one of you. So we got to get, again, using what I said a long time ago, we got to stop politicizing and be more personalized. Focusing on the kids and the service to the kids. That's what I'm challenging them to do. That's what they're challenged themselves to do and each other to do every day. We're only asking for the same from the public. Because when we do the things that we're doing, when we fight like this, we create space between each other. Those are the cracks that families and kids are falling through. Like, the comments are right. We're creating the cracks that families are falling through and kids are falling through. And we got to close that gap. That's our job. It's our responsibility. And so I'm sorry that you're seeing a lot of struggle around this one project. It's been years of struggle. And that has got us to where we are. It's just kind of blowing up on this one thing. I get it. And it sucks. But we have to change it. That's got to be the way of the past. Moving forward, it's got to be a completely new way. And you're going to hear all about that on January 29th at our State of the City event. I invite anybody that wants to think about, talk about, and work toward a better future for Ogden to come to our State of the City event on January 29th at 6 p.m. at the Copper Nickel. We're going to review what we've accomplished in the year that I've been here, and we're going to look ahead to the year ahead and the years beyond. And none of that work that we do will happen without people like these guys. And what looks like it might be an anonymous letter to the editor about one of our people is not the way to get things done and to fix things and to make things better. It's to roll up your sleeves and get to work with us, not against us. So, Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, the employees that are here to support that. Any other council member comments? All right. If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Graff to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you. We'll see you all next week.